Have you ever wondered why some of the wisest people seem to slowly disappear from social circles? Not with anger, not with dramatic goodbyes, but almost without anyone noticing? At first, it can look like they're becoming distant. Friends assume they're too busy, family members think they've changed, others may even believe they've become cold or arrogant. But what if the truth is completely different? What if walking away isn't about rejecting people at all? What if it's the natural result of seeing life through a different lens? Psychologists have long observed that as people develop greater self-awareness, they often become more intentional about how they spend their time and emotional energy. Instead of chasing every conversation or maintaining every relationship, they begin asking a much deeper question. Does this connection truly add value to my life? That single question quietly changes everything. By the end of this video, you'll discover why highly self-aware people often choose distance over drama, why their social circle naturally becomes smaller over time, and why what appears to be isolation is often the beginning of a healthier, more authentic life. The first reason, they stop ignoring what they once overlooked. Most people experience relationships on the surface. They hear words, see smiles, and accept situations as they appear. Rarely do they pause to examine what lies beneath. Highly self-aware people gradually begin doing exactly that. It doesn't happen overnight. There isn't one life-changing moment that suddenly transforms the way they see the world. Instead, dozens of small experiences quietly reshape their perspective. A promise is broken. A friend disappears when life becomes difficult. Someone celebrates your failures more enthusiastically than your successes. Another person only reaches out when they need advice, support, or a favor. Individually, these moments may seem insignificant. Together, they reveal a pattern. The human mind is remarkably good at recognizing repeated behaviors. Once enough experiences accumulate, it starts connecting details that previously seemed unrelated. Behaviors that once felt confusing suddenly become predictable. People who once appeared genuine begin revealing hidden motivations. Conversations that once felt meaningful start sounding repetitive. Compliments begin carrying subtle expectations. Even silence begins communicating more than words ever could. This doesn't make highly self-aware people suspicious of everyone around them. Instead, it teaches them an important lesson. Consistency reveals character far more clearly than occasional kindness. They stop judging people by impressive speeches and begin watching everyday actions. Who keeps their promises? Who respects boundaries without being reminded? Who genuinely celebrates your progress without making it about themselves? The answers to those questions become impossible to ignore. As this awareness grows, another change quietly takes place. Instead of trying to earn everyone's approval, they become increasingly comfortable disappointing people whose expectations require sacrificing their own peace. That decision often surprises those around them. People who were once always available suddenly decline invitations. The person who replied to every message immediately now takes time before responding. Someone who used to avoid conflict begins calmly saying no without offering lengthy explanations. To outsiders, these changes can seem confusing or even hurtful. But from the inside, they're not acts of rejection. They're acts of self-respect. Highly self-aware people eventually realize that every commitment carries a cost. Every conversation requires attention. Every relationship demands emotional investment. Because those resources are limited, they begin protecting them with greater care. For the first time, they understand that being available to everyone often means being unavailable for themselves. And once that realization settles in, life starts moving in a completely different direction. What comes next is even more surprising. Because the more clearly they understand other people, the more they begin understanding something they had overlooked within themselves. The second reason, they become tired of conversations that never go anywhere. As self-awareness deepens, something unexpected begins to happen. The conversations that once felt exciting slowly lose their appeal. It's not because highly self-aware people stop enjoying others. It's because they begin craving something that casual interactions rarely provide: depth. Many everyday conversations revolve around the same topics, the same complaints, and the same routines. People gossip about strangers, argue over opinions that change nothing, or repeat stories they've told dozens of times before. For a while, this feels normal, but eventually, something changes. Highly self-aware people start asking bigger questions. Why do people behave the way they do? What truly creates happiness? What fears quietly control our decisions? How much of our identity comes from society, and how much comes from ourselves? These questions don't always have simple answers, but they open doors to meaningful conversations. Unfortunately, not everyone wants to walk through those doors. Many people prefer comfort over curiosity. They would rather stay with familiar ideas than challenge long-held beliefs. Over time, this creates an invisible distance. It's not that the friendship suddenly ends. It's that both people slowly begin living in different worlds. One is searching for understanding. The other is simply trying to pass the time. This realization can feel lonely at first. But instead of forcing conversations that leave them emotionally drained, highly self-aware people become comfortable with silence. They discover that silence isn't empty. Silence is where reflection begins. It is where confusing emotions become clear. It is where new ideas take shape. It is where personal growth quietly happens. For the first time, being alone no longer feels like something to escape. It becomes something to appreciate. They begin reading more, thinking more deeply, questioning their own assumptions instead of blindly accepting what they've always believed. Little by little, their inner world becomes richer than the constant noise around them. And once that happens, they no longer fear missing out, because they realize the greatest discoveries often happen when no one else is speaking. The third reason, they stop trying to save everyone. Perhaps the hardest lesson highly self-aware people learn is this: you cannot change someone who doesn't want to change. In the beginning, they often believe kindness can heal every relationship. They offer advice. They give second chances. They overlook disrespect. They excuse harmful behavior because they believe everyone deserves understanding. But experience teaches them something different. Some people don't want solutions. They want sympathy without responsibility. Some don't seek growth. They seek comfort in staying exactly where they are. Others repeatedly create the same problems while expecting someone else to rescue them. For a long time, highly self-aware people carry burdens that were never theirs to carry. They absorb other people's stress. They feel responsible for everyone else's happiness. They apologize for things that weren't their fault. Eventually, the emotional weight becomes impossible to ignore. That's when they discover a powerful truth. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice. You can care about someone without carrying their emotional baggage. You can love people while refusing to participate in unhealthy patterns. You can wish someone well while recognizing they are no longer healthy for your life. This isn't selfishness. It's emotional maturity. Healthy boundaries are not walls built to keep people out. They're doors that allow the right people in while protecting your peace from those who repeatedly take without giving. From the outside, this transformation often looks like withdrawal. People may say they've changed, that they've become distant, that they're not the same anymore. In many ways, they're right. They're no longer the person who says yes to everything, no longer the person who stays in one-sided relationships, no longer the person who mistakes being needed for being valued. Instead, they become someone who understands that genuine relationships are built on mutual respect, honesty, and shared effort, not guilt, obligation, or constant sacrifice. And once that lesson is learned, there's one final transformation that changes every part of their life. It doesn't just affect their relationships. It changes the relationship they have with themselves. The final reason, they choose a life that feels true to them. The greatest transformation doesn't happen when highly self-aware people walk away from others. It happens when they stop walking away from themselves. For years, many people shape their lives around expectations they never chose. They chase approval, avoid disappointing others, and measure their worth by how much they can give. At first, this feels like the right thing to do. They become dependable, helpful, always available. But over time, they begin to notice something unsettling. The more they ignore their own needs, the more disconnected they feel from the person they truly are. One day, they ask themselves a question they've been avoiding for years. Am I living the life I want, or the life everyone else expects me to live? That single question changes everything. Instead of saying yes out of guilt, they start saying yes with intention. Instead of chasing acceptance, they begin chasing peace. Instead of trying to impress everyone, they focus on becoming someone they can genuinely respect. To people on the outside, these changes often seem sudden. Friends wonder why they don't attend every gathering anymore. Old acquaintances ask why they don't answer every message. Some people assume they're becoming cold or antisocial. But what others see as distance is often growth. What looks like withdrawal is often healing. And what appears to be loneliness is often the quiet beginning of inner freedom. Highly self-aware people eventually understand something many never discover. Time is limited. Energy is limited. Attention is limited. Every hour spent trying to earn the approval of people who don't truly value you is an hour taken away from becoming the person you're capable of being. That's why they become intentional about where they invest themselves. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every disagreement deserves a response. Not every relationship deserves unlimited access to your life. This isn't about building walls. It's about building wisdom. Because peace isn't found by controlling everyone around you. It's found by choosing environments, habits, and relationships that allow your best self to grow. And perhaps that's the biggest misunderstanding of all. People assume highly self-aware individuals disappear because they no longer care about others. The truth is far more powerful. They care enough about their own well-being to stop living on autopilot. They stop pretending. They stop shrinking themselves to make others comfortable. They stop apologizing for protecting their peace. And in doing so, they create space for relationships that are genuine instead of convenient, supportive instead of draining, and honest instead of performative. So if you found yourself becoming quieter lately, if you've started letting go of relationships that no longer feel healthy, if you've chosen peace over constant approval, maybe you're not becoming distant. Maybe you're becoming more authentic than you've ever been. The people meant to be part of your journey won't require you to abandon yourself to keep them close. They'll respect your boundaries, celebrate your growth, and appreciate the person you're becoming, not the version of you that existed only to please everyone else. So here's one final question to reflect on. Are you pulling away from the world, or are you finally moving closer to the life that truly belongs to you? Sometimes the strongest decision you'll ever make isn't speaking louder. It's becoming quiet enough to hear your own voice again. If this perspective changed the way you think about relationships, share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever quietly outgrown a relationship that no longer reflected who you are becoming? Or has someone unexpectedly disappeared from your life only for you to understand their reasons much later? Your story might help someone else who's going through the same journey. If you enjoy exploring psychology, self-awareness, and the hidden patterns behind human behavior, don't forget to subscribe for more videos that challenge the way you see yourself and the world around you. Until next time, stay curious, keep growing, and remember, sometimes the path to finding yourself begins the moment you stop trying to be everything for everyone else.